I have a suggestion for Beto O'Rourke today. Beto should leave the presidential campaign, go back to Texas, and challenge the other Texas senator, Republican John Cornyn, for his seat in 2020. I'm going to make the case for you here. If you disagree with me, okay, don't tell me that I'm an anti-Beto shill in the primary. Listen, skip it all. Tell me which of my facts are wrong or which don't point to this being a good idea. I'm going to build the case up for you here. In 2016, Donald Trump won Texas over Hillary Clinton by about 52 to 43. It was a 9-point margin by which Donald Trump defeated Hillary Clinton in Texas in 2016. In 2012, Mitt Romney defeated Barack Obama in Texas by a margin of 16, meaning Trump's margin in Texas in the last presidential election was not nearly as big as Mitt Romney's in 2012. And in 2008, even though, as I'm sure you know, Barack Obama defeated John McCain in the presidential election, McCain also beat Obama by a much larger margin than Trump's margin of victory over Hillary. It was a 12-point margin of victory for McCain over Obama in Texas in 2012. So for starters, number one, in 2016, Texas was closer in the presidential election than it had been in a long time. In 2018, Beto O'Rourke ran against Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Now, Ted Cruz ended up winning that re-election campaign. It was very close, 50.89% to 48.33%. The margin of victory for Ted Cruz over Beto O'Rourke as the incumbent Republican senator in Texas was only about 2.5 percentage points. This is a very slim margin for an incumbent Republican senator in Texas. Beto O'Rourke then decided to take the name recognition that he built to some degree during his 2018 Senate run against Ted Cruz and run for president. And unfortunately, Beto O'Rourke is not doing well in his presidential campaign. So we're putting up on the screen the polling for a variety of Democratic candidates. Beto's polling is the pink line, which we have signaled for you in the graphic. And you'll notice that Beto was polling as high as nearly 10% some months ago. And it's just been a steady and consistent decline down to now averaging only about 3.5% in national polls is Beto O'Rourke. In a recent Iowa poll, which is the first 2020 caucus state, Beto's polling only 2%. Okay. So Beto has fallen from some level of grace, we could say. And the reality is Beto is not going to be so impressive once the upcoming Democratic debates start that he's going to regain anything close to a real shot at being the Democratic nominee. However, there's no denying that Beto O'Rourke is more well-known today than he ever has been. So what Beto O'Rourke should do is leave the presidential race gracefully. I mean, participate in the first or second debate next month since he's in them. He's qualified. Continue to raise his name recognition a little bit. But then go back to Texas and run against the other Texas Senator, Republican John Cornyn. Because as I told you in another story today, Donald Trump's favorability in Texas right now is only +3, which is very low for a Republican candidate in the state of Texas. The mood in general is good for another run by Beto O'Rourke in Texas. And importantly, Cornyn's even less popular than Ted Cruz in Texas. There's a February 2019 poll, which is 4 months old, but it's still relatively illuminating. The favorability rating for John Cornyn is lower in Texas now than Ted Cruz's was when Beto O'Rourke ran against him in 2018. So this is a very strong way to, number one, maybe turn a red seat blue, but also to cause the Republican Party to have to invest a bunch of money in defending John Cornyn's seat. Beto has until, I believe it's early December, to file for the Senate election in Texas. Beto is not going to have any serious impact on this presidential race. Beto could immediately have an impact in Texas. He could force the Texas Republican Party and even the National Republican National Committee to, at minimum, spend a ton of money defending John Cornyn's seat. Maybe John Cornyn can even be defeated in Texas. And when we look at the 2020 math for the Senate and we realize the math just doesn't look good for Democrats because of which third of the Senate seats are up for re-election, we're assuming that John Cornyn definitely gets reelected. Beto would have a shot. People don't love John Cornyn. The mood in Texas is almost as liberal as it has ever been, if not as liberal as it has ever been. Texas isn't thrilled with Trump. Cornyn has been mostly a Trump guy. This is a real opportunity. Beto should get out gracefully. I get it. Participate in a debate or two so you can raise more money, keep your name in the news to some degree, but then use the name recognition and go run against the Republican senator in Texas, where he has a much better shot than he has of becoming the Democratic presidential nominee. What do you think? Okay. If you disagree with any of the facts that I'm using to come to this conclusion, tell me where I'm wrong on the facts. If you agree with the facts, but disagree with my conclusion, I also want to hear from you. If you're just going to send ad hominems, skip it. Just not worth it. We don't have time for it. We've got real business to deal with here. Make sure you're following The David Pakman Show on Instagram at David Pakman Show. Make sure you're following me at david.pakman as well. I am thrilled to tell you that today's episode is sponsored in part by Blinkist.com/Pakman. Blinkist is a really unique service for your phone, tablet, and web browser, and it is incredibly useful for people like me who love books and learning but are busy. Blinkist takes the best and most popular nonfiction books and condenses them into 15-minute audiobooks. I'm sure that if you're like me, you have a very long list of books that you've been meaning to read. You only have so many hours in the day, and that's why Blinkist is so amazing. They take the most important information, the themes, the insights from each book, and they distill it into a 15-minute audiobook that you can listen to in one sitting. I've listened to a ton of books on Blinkist. Our audience can get a 7-day free trial by going to Blinkist.com/Pakman. If you're watching on YouTube, I put a link in the description. I have listened to Blinkist books about economics, about political science, about history, about science. So many interesting things. And after the free trial, if you like it, you can continue enjoying thousands of condensed audiobooks for about $5 a month. Go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. That's BLINKIST.com/PAKMAN.